Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am so glad to be able to interview my next guest. He is an energetic and talkative person, and he so happens to be my principal. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Harry Brown.
Thank you, Douglas. Glad to be here.
Please have a seat. Well, how have you been?
I'm great.
So today I want to talk about you. Who are you? So could you tell me a bit about yourself?
Well, Douglas, I was born and raised in New York City, in the United States. Lived there for a good portion of my youth, and my adolescence, however, was spent in Florida. So I've spent most of my time, including university, in the United States. I came to Hong Kong in 2009, which would be a good now 14 years I've been here, and been involved in teaching my entire career.
Did you ever see yourself being a teacher?
I did. It was probably about what we call 6th grade when I got a chance to go in and do some tutoring. And I remember, oddly enough, Douglas, it was in mathematics, and which is not exactly one of my strong suits as an adult, but as a primary student, it was apparently was a whiz. And we had a new student, and the teacher encouraged me to help him go ahead and learn his short division, and he was so enthusiastic at the end of that. I enjoyed it. I had a younger sister, so I was accustomed, working with younger people. But that was the moment that said, oh, I think I could be a teacher.
So that was your inspiration?
That was my inspiration, the idea of helping people, and the reaction I got, that he was very pleased. He had really struggled with this and seemed to, whatever I was able to do or how I said it to him, he was able to go ahead and pick up his short division skills.
Do you currently enjoy math?
It's not that I don't enjoy it, I just don't get it. I can follow the formula, but I'm not intuitive about it. And I had a math teacher tell me once in a parent conference, actually with the family, that the difference between a mathematician and someone who does math, a mathematician is intuitive about mathematics. They can see where it goes. They can see the connections. I might be able to follow a formula, but I don't really know why I'm doing it, and I have trouble explaining to somebody else. So my level of intuition is in other areas, not so much math or physics, though I'm fascinated by it.
Did you ever see yourself becoming a principal?
Not when I was your age. At your age in high school or secondary school, I very much saw myself as a secondary school teacher. And it wasn't until I was actually teaching that I actually saw that being a principal might be something I'd want to do. And that was because it was almost a tale of, instead of a tale of two cities, it was a tale of two schools. I worked in one school where the administration was very hostile with teachers, and teachers didn't like the administration. Teachers versus the principals. Teachers and students versus the principals. Then I went to another school where everybody seemed to work together. The administration respected the teachers respected them, therefore the students thrived in that school, and that's when I saw the huge effect that a principal can have and the leadership team on a school. Some things bubble up in any organization, especially a school, like creativity, innovation can bubble up from the classroom. But one thing that can never bubble up is culture. The culture of a school is driven by the leadership and therefore by the students, because no matter how much the culture of your class may be warm, loving, and receptive, if you step out in the hallway and that's not seen across the school, it's not going to be something as part of, it's not embedded in the culture.
How would you describe the atmosphere and the culture you were saying in RCHK?
One of the beauties about RCHK is it's an all-through school. It's a large school of just over 2,000 students, but those 2,000 students are from age 5 to 18. And I think that really our middle school students are the ones that really bridge that gap, because they're role models to the younger students, but they won't be too foolish in front of the older students because they don't want to look bad. And therefore, the organized chaos we have every morning before school starts, with the older students and the younger students on the basketball courts and the playground, see the energy level here is one of respect. It's one of care, concern, and healthy risk-taking.
May you tell me the benefits of an all-through IB school, from PYP to MYP to the diploma program?
I think younger students can visualize themselves as secondary students because they can see them every day. So they're able to go ahead and look up to them, and the older students can always be role models, and they are role models for our younger students. On On the curriculum side, we can backwards design from what we expect in the diploma classes, what appears on examination, and backwards design those elements all the way back down to the primary school so that we're sure we're hitting the marks so students are best prepared for examinations in year 13. The examinations that are going to be key to helping them, university decide where they might be going. To accept or not. So I think the curriculum aspect of it, there's a much more easier opportunity to be a very seamless transition from where the big changes are from primary to secondary, from middle school to diploma, and then not forgetting diploma onto university.
Would you say that is what separates RCHK with so many other schools?
Yes, and because not only are we in all through school, but we're in all through school on one campus. There are many schools, even some in Hong Kong, that may be all through, but they're not on one campus. So they're spread out. They may have the same name, but they're the same name in 3 different parts of Hong Kong. We're all on one campus. So all students have to do when they matriculate from the primary school to secondary school is walk across the courtyard. They don't have to go across town. They don't have to learn a new facility. It's very familiar to them and to their parents.
Dr. Brown, you have devoted decades of your life to a career in education. My question to you is, what is education?
I think education, Douglas, is helping students, or helping people develop the skills to be able to respond to whatever comes their way. Whatever comes their way can be something academically, it can be emotional, it could be career. It's the ability to go ahead and know, one, that you are both lovable and good enough. And those are messages that we try to send over and over again, not just to our students, but to our teachers as well. You're lovable and you're good enough. You build confidence by doing. Not just saying, but doing. Giving students the opportunity to build skills where they go ahead, as I said before, in a safe environment to risk take, to experiment, to better discover and learn themselves. Education really is finding about what your contribution is going to be to the world. And as you peel back those layers, as you grow up from 5 to 18, and of course the answers change, and as you move beyond secondary school, they may too. And education is the ability to know yourself so that you can help others.
How would you compare the teaching styles from the past to modern day style of teaching?
Students are much more the center of the learning experience today than it was when I even started teaching, let alone when I was a student. When I was a student, the teacher was what you've heard the phrase maybe a sage on stage. They were the all-knowing, the all-powerful. They went ahead and delivered content. You wrote it down, no internet at that time. You had the textbook, you had notes the teacher would give you, and then you were tested on that. There was not the kind of putting the student as part of the learning experience as there is today. In addition, you could pick up your phone. I mean, just about every student has a tablet or a phone, and virtually all the information you'd ever need to know is right there. So it's not so much anymore about memorizing content. There's certain things we need to do. We need to know our alphabet. We need to be able to do our ABCs. We need to be able to do our multiplication tables, and for our scientists, the periodic table. Just about everything else you can find online. But the skills to discern what is good information, which is not, which is real news, which is fake news. Those are skills that we still develop here in school and putting student at the learning experience. So, when I was in school, generally there was one right answer, whatever class you were in, multiple wrong answers. I think today is we're less worried about students finding the right answer, but for the right answer for themselves, depending on as they could apply it to a situation.
What do you think are the key elements of being a teacher?
You are, first of all, humble, and the fact that you're here to serve others. You have a tremendous responsibility because parents have put you in charge of their children, their most valuable resource when it matters most to them. So you're humble at the fact that you have the opportunity to make a difference to other people. Number two is that you're coming with something to impart. You're willing to share yourself and share knowledge. That knowledge looks different when it's a 5-year-old versus a 15-year-old, but it's still the idea that you're here to share and facilitate, to go ahead and help students build their strengths so they feel confident enough to be able to learn on their own.
Do you agree that knowing why and how we learn something is significantly more important than learning the content itself?
I think the why part is more important the older you get. There's certain content we all have to have, and we do teach. Even though we have frameworks for the PYP, the primary years program, and the MYP, the middle years program, there's a lot of content in there for them to go out and learn. But it's the why, because eventually all of our students will leave here, and they're going to be in a job where they have to go ahead and find solutions. They're often going to be told by their boss, think outside the box, come up with something creative. If students have never had that experience when they've been in primary and secondary school, it's a big jolt in your 20s to have to start thinking like that and start acting like that. So if schools are not training students or helping students develop their own skills, and instead they're just lecturing to them with the idea of just giving them back, they're not going to be the creative workforce that people are looking for. I think human relationships, though similar, have also developed too. That there is more expectation for men and women to be equal in a relationship and to be listening and sharing with one another. And that also can be practiced here at school.
Renaissance College is a school in Hong Kong. The majority would agree that Hong Kong is a very competitive environment, especially in education. Do we live in a society where grades are valued higher than learning? If so, how can we improve on that component?
Well, let's begin with the competition part. I think in my experience have been a lot of our students take that competition themselves. We're not really competing with students at other schools. We're not really out there being published in the newspaper or in any type of journal comparing one set of scores from one school to another, or even students within a class. A lot of students take that on with themselves. They compete with each other, often based on grades. Yeah, unfortunately, and that's always been that, grades are still the currency that basically communicates to the student, to the parent, and to the potential university, this is what the student can do. I think we can do better, and we've already proven we can do better than just grades. And look nowhere else than our art program, where students will be able to put in portfolios, demonstrating precisely what they can do, let's say in the visual arts. When students audition for music and performing arts, they do an audition, they actually do something. They're not interested so much in the grade. They want to make sure that the basics are there, but what can you do? Where I'd like to see education go is be able for our students to demonstrate what they can do as opposed to just something in a grade. Grades are often used as an equalizer. So university admissions can go ahead and look across from students from Hong Kong, students from Australia, students from the United Kingdom, students from North America, and they use grades or test scores as some kind of great equalizer or some leveler. So they get a sense of so it makes their job easier, and it helps communicate possibly what students have done in school and if they're going to be successful at university. A university admissions counselor wants to make sure, an officer wants to make sure whoever they invite in stays through to graduation. But I think we have work to do with the admissions officers to make our science program, our math program, our humanities or individual societies program look more like our art, music, and our physical education program. Again, our sports scholars, our sports students can go ahead and demonstrate something in very clear measure. So it's not so much about a test, about what can you do. When you apply for a job, yeah, they want to know you've had the education, but the first question is, what can you do? What have you done already that you can replicate for us? That's our goal in education, is to help students better define what that is.
In the future, do you ever see a gradeless method to judge students?
We're closer and closer. Fewer and fewer universities requiring certain standardized test scores for admission. More universities are interested in talking to secondary schools around the world about making sure they're making the correct admissions decisions. Because again, they're being told by the corporate America and corporate Britain and corporate Hong Kong and corporate China, they don't want students who can just regurgitate or just follow directions. They want them to be creative. They want them to be able to work together in teams. They want them to be able to problem solve, and they want people to be able to work with people from different backgrounds and from all over the world. to do those kinds of things, you need experience in school, and I think we're on the right track for that, because again, we're trying as much as we can. Our e-portfolios are probably a good example. Our electronic portfolios are a way for students to go ahead and demonstrate their learning journey and be able to demonstrate their knowledge. And if we can translate that to universities, I think they're going to be very welcome to the fact of being able to look at different students. We just have to find a method to be able to do that with some kind of regular currency.
Well, that does sound exciting. I'm very curious about what you would think of this question, because this question could be interpreted in many different ways. So my question right now is, what is your perspective to what life is about? What gives your life meaning?
You know, that sounds complicated, and I think we overcomplicate that as human beings. Students often wrestle with, as well as young adults and older adults, what is my purpose? And I've gone into many a secondary classroom and said, listen, I'll give you the answer to that. I can tell you right now what your purpose is. And your purpose in life, because all of us have the same purpose in life, is number one, to serve one another. We are here to serve other human beings, whether they're our age, they're older, they're younger, or a combination of both. The challenge for you is to find out what path that is going to be. How are you going to choose to serve another? Because that is our purpose. And we know that because we know the great feedback we get from people when we serve. Not only do we get the good feeling hormones generating in our body, but we know cognitively and emotionally we've made a connection. We've helped somebody out, because as human beings, we're built for connection. We're built for belonging. So all of us have the same purpose, is to serve one another, individually and maybe humankind, because we have, you know, several degrees of separation, and you help one person, you help others. But that's our purpose. The challenge for all of us is to figure out, how will you do that? And I've chosen, because I'm kind of a one-trick pony, it's about the only thing I can do, is to do education is my way to do it. I've always enjoyed working with younger people. When I became an administrator, it was not just young people, but adults as well, teachers and other administrators. So that's the challenge, and it may change. How you do it, my career has changed a bit over the years. The exciting thing about people your age is that few of you will do the exact same thing for the next 30 or 40 years. You'll probably have a whole lot of different things. And as you've heard people say many times, there are jobs out there or career paths that don't even exist today, that will be there by the time you finish university, assuming that you want to do a traditional career path anyway, and you're not an entrepreneur or a startup guy with other people doing something very different.
Would you consider serving others as your personal philosophy?
Well, I guess my life file is very simple, is to have fun and make a difference. I mean, that's very simple. If I was to have a life mission statement, we've had to do these before, and mine was simply to have fun and make a difference. But it's really what's called servant leadership. The idea is that we all, I see the greatest reward, and our students experience themselves. So we have something called CAS, or the opportunity for students to go ahead and give service in the community. And they often reflect on how they can see the difference. They've made a difference in the lives of others. And they can see not only has it helped shape who they are, but also reaffirmed their commitment to other humans. Because it's very easy to get locked into your own world and your own dramas and traumas that happen in your life. But when you reach out to other people, some who may be less fortunate to you, or maybe in a different situation, you maybe different race, different sex, different socioeconomic status, people with different issues, whatever those may be, it increases your awareness, but also helps connect you with humanity.
When you come to school every day, what excites you?
Well, I've got to admit, the students are what, and this is the beauty of being in all-through school. I can begin the day with some 5- and 6-year-olds who've got a new bracelet they want to show, or a loose tooth, and they're very excited about maybe their new running shoes, and they're just, you know, probably all of our primary school students, the nature of being 5, 6, 7, 8, they come bursting with joy every day. Bursting with joy and energy, and they just want to share. They don't particularly want to talk like they want to exchange. They just want to sort of broadcast information to you. And I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to cheerlead and hear all that they have to say and go on from that. But then I spend the afternoon with people like yourself, and maybe a theory of knowledge class, or psychology class, or a PSE class, or personal social education, or science of well-being, and talk about issues that matter to you, whether they're issues here at school, or they're issues of development, personal development, career development, or maybe within the topic. So it's a little bit, it's a different type of engagement that you're going to have, a more intellectual engagement that you might have with a primary school age student, but no less excitement, just a little bit more tempered. So the joy that I have is working with students, which is why I like to stay working in a school and not in a school office somewhere. That's the joy. But having said that, and behind that is working with our teachers, our vice principals, and our parents, because it truly is a community, as opposed to working in an office someplace in a silo. That's not the kind of job that would ever bring me this kind of satisfaction. You talked about meaning. I have meaning in working with other people like that, because especially in all through school, I've seen many people, including yourself, go from very young to now teenagerhood, ready to graduate, and there's no greater joy to see a young person developed from basically toddlerhood to tweenhood to young adulthood, and it truly is a village.
Speaking from being a kid to being in teenagehood, do you have any advice for year 13 students who are about to start their new chapter of their life?
I'll come back to what I said. First of all, you're good enough as you are, and you're lovable and good enough right now. As you go off to university, use it as a challenge, use an opportunity to open up your experience to new things. Know that you have the skills to be successful, to worry less about competing with others and more focused on yourself. And know that you've got it. You're going to be a success. You get to go ahead and set the measure for what success is. But be true to yourself and be honest with what that is. And especially for our Hong Kong students, don't be so hard on yourself. Our students tend to be hypercritical, not just of each other, but mainly themselves. And that's where that competition comes in. Too often, students come across my path directly or indirectly who are in a very low place because they have somehow measured themselves against social media, or measured themselves against marks somebody else got, or university offers that somebody else had gotten, and they somehow feel diminished or less. You only ever have to go ahead and rate your success against your previous experiences. Much like an athlete. Athlete worries less about what others are doing and measuring their own time, trying to improve, coming up with their own best time. So, year 13, focus on worrying about your own best time, not somebody else's.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you,
wisdom.
Douglas. Good luck to you. Thank you for the invitation.
And I really enjoyed this interview. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.